are you doing?
You said on the phone that you wanted to get to know me. Well, here I am, Karen. Look at me. I want to give you a piece of my mind. I trusted you, Karen.
As I was making up John Schlock, John had already written American Werewolf in London, virtually the same script that we photographed. And he said, my next movie is going to be American Werewolf in London, and I want to do a transformation scene in a way that it's never been done before. And, you know, would you be interested? Yes, I would. I mean, I love that stuff. And I always loved the Wolfman and Mr. Hyde transformations and all that stuff. And I'd done a number of the lap dissolve style transformations myself, you know, with the 8mm stuff and fake. And kind of, I had a lot of these ideas, and, you know, and was so excited and anxious to do it. And then nobody was making this damn movie, you know. And it's like nobody wanted to know, you know, about the American Werewolf in London. And then one day I get a call from Joe Dante and Mike Fennell and said, hey, we want to do this movie called The Howling. It's a werewolf movie, and we want to do some really cool stuff. And I thought, all right, well, they're never going to make an American Werewolf. I'll do it for The Howling. And I started The Howling, and I started the design process and doing a lot of this stuff. And sure enough, you know, and then I get a phone call from John Landis and go, guess what? We're finally going to make American Werewolf in London. And it's like, oh, shit, you know, and it's like, well, guess what, John? I started doing this other werewolf movie, and he goes, "You bastard! You son of a bitch!" He was calling him against names. This is for my movie. And I go, okay. What I'll do is, and this is at the time when Rob was my, like, you know, flunky assistant kind of guy. You know, I thought, I hurt myself when it's about. I'll turn this show over to Rob, and I'll do American Werewolf. You know, so they were kind of being done simultaneously, and I already gave him a lot of the ideas on how to do it, but Rob is a very creative, and he's really got a really clever imagination, and he came up with his own take on how to do some of this stuff and the way that he thought it should work. And so we both kind of went off in our own ways, you know. But that's why I got credits on both the films.
It was a crossroads, and they were burying this man. He was, it was a dead guy, wrapped with a canvas, and the canvas was wrapped with garlands of garlic and rosaries.
For 1,000 years, we gypsies have buried our dead like that.
And they're burying this guy feet first, and deep, you know, and it's a burial, and it's some kind of ritual thing.
I couldn't break the custom, even if I wanted to.
He's being buried this way so he doesn't get up and cause mischief. And so I'm going, well, hello? What you mean get up like a zombie? Get up like what? And Sasha's going, yeah, you know, he thought it was hysterical. There were about 40 people doing this thing. So we stood there for like 45 minutes watching this thing, and Sasha, meanwhile, has just pissed himself. He's laughing so hard. He thought it was the funniest thing. And I kept thinking, what if he did get up?
John had already written American Werewolf. And he said, my next film is going to be American Werewolf in London.
He wrote that by the time he was 21?
He was 20 when he wrote it.
Wow.
Yeah, and he goes, it's going to be my next film. And he said, I want to do a transformation in a way that never been done before. It doesn't make sense to me that a man changing in his body, going through this metamorphosis, would sit in a chair like Lon Chaney Jr. and be still until he finished changing. He goes, I think it would be painful, and I want him to be able to move, and I want to show the pain. And, you know, how would you do that? And I go, I have no fucking idea, but I would love to, you know.
When I wrote it, the idea that I would show the transformation with no cutaways, all on camera, I didn't know how I'd do it, but I intended it in bright, harsh light, you know, and I even had the music picked out then. I wanted Blue Moon. I knew that I had to come up with something clever. Now, I wrote it in '69, so in '71, I'm now making schlock with Rick Baker. And I said to Rick, here, read this script and tell me how you solve this problem, because I want to see the skull change. And the big thing, I wanted it to be painful. Because if your hand goes from, you know, this to a paw, you know, I really wanted it to be painful. I mean, because the human form, you know, it's weird. You know, I wanted the skull to elongate, just the cracking of the bones, and just make it horrific.
And he also said, you know, I want to do it in a brightly lit room. It's not going to have horror film lighting. It's going to be, you know, real.
Proposing for Rick is the worst possible thing you can do a makeup artist, which is no cutaways, and harsh, bright fluorescent light. I mean, there's no way for him to trick you. You know, it has to happen on camera.
You know.
How did you do this? How did you do the hand?
We call it a change-o hand. It was actually a fake hand. We storyboarded the whole sequence, and that's a different fake hand there. That's the second one.
Right.
And that's another one there. It's got syringes in it that we pump. Now he's wearing an appliance hand that matches that, see. And we storyboarded the whole sequence. And as you saw when David first took off his clothes, he's not very hairy.
Right.
And I said, for me to glue a little bit of hair on, and then we do him a little hairier and a little hairier, it's better for us to work in reverse. Let me do him in the hairiest first, and I'll pull hair off and trim it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But we boarded the whole thing out. So, and this hair growing was reverse. I punched hair through rubber and then pulled it through, and we reverse printed it, so it looked like it was growing. This is a whole fake back, again, with things coming out of it.
You know, essentially it's an erection metaphor. I remember the whole thing of metamorphosis. You know, when your body is changing, that's what puberty is about. You know, you're getting hairy. I mean, all of a sudden, weird things are happening to you.
What John Landis said to me is that I'm never going to really show the werewolf for more than a couple seconds. And I hardly even want to show it thin, you know.
Right.
And what was great about Werewolf, working on that film with John Landis, was he, you know, said, you're the expert. I want a four-legged hound from hell. I wanted to make a biped werewolf. You know, we argued about it, and it was basically, you know, he wins, he's the director, you know, but he says, four-legged hound from hell, make it. And I did. I mean, the first sculpture was what the final thing became. Same with everything in it, the Nazi demons, all that stuff. We thought what would be the most impactful thing would be for his face to change last, but what I don't like about the transformation, like here, the wolf has a big mane of hair, so he's got this big hairy neck that I don't like, you know, and it's, you know, David doesn't have lenses, and his eyes were just that red from, that was a 10-hour day of makeup.
So just exhausted and with makeup on?
Yeah.
This was incredible, man. That's crazy that he doesn't have any eyes. He doesn't have anything in his eyes.
Yeah.
That's just his eyes.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But yeah, this is the first stage change-o head. So this is a rubber head that had mechanisms that push it out, you know. And this is a second stage change-o head that stretches out like that. And the thing that was interesting, because I mean, I was 30 when I did this. It was at a time when there weren't people that did this kind of work. There were just a few in Hollywood, you know, like John Chambers, who did Planet of the Apes. But for me to find a crew, I hired kids that sent me fan mail. I was a kid from Texas that sent me fan mail, another kid from Connecticut, and they were like 18.
Wow.
And I had a crew of like basically 18-year-olds and me. There was like, I think 6 of us who did this film, you know, 30, however many years ago. I'm not good at math. It still looks pretty decent. You know?
Fucking awesome. Not just pretty decent.
It took us about a week to shoot, but during that week, we probably only shot for about a half an hour. You know, it was like, today we're going to do this makeup. It's going to take 10 hours on David Naughton, and then we're going to shoot it for 5 minutes, and then we're done, you know, because it takes too long to take it off and put another one on.
When I first got this role, I met Rick Baker, who did the makeup, and he said, "Are you playing the David character?" I said, "Yes, I am," because I feel sorry for you. I said, "You know, wait a second, this is like a real good role for me, or for any actor. What do you mean you feel sorry for me?" And he said, "You'll see." And I saw. I couldn't do anything but just sit there, you know, and sit there, and you know, 10 hours a day for 6 days of this transformation, and shoot for a couple hours, and then they said, go take the makeup off, you know, which would take about 3 hours. And see you tomorrow. We're going to do this again. And I tried to say, maybe I could leave the country.
You know, we had to take casts of his body in all kinds of weird positions, and there's not a lot of actors who would put up with it, and he was very good at that.
The hardest part was there's a point when the body actually stretches. It's no longer my body. My body's in the floor. They'd cut a hole in the floor, and I was put into the floor. On a break, everyone would leave the set. I'd still be in the floor. They'd relight, I'd still be in the floor, and that was a tough day of work. But the payoff is, is a transformation unlike anything anybody's seen, and it won Rick an Academy Award.
And now it was another hand, which was a different sculpture that was made to look a little more wolf-like, and that continued to stretch. And we just, because the frame was like here, and you didn't see the elbow, David Naughton just had his arm down, and we were kneeling down underneath him, holding this fake arm, and it just looked like it was.
The Wolfman, you know, as conceived by Kurt Siodmak, you know, he's a tragic figure. It's sad. And it's so interesting because he becomes something other that kills. And you have to realize, I mean, this guy, Larry Talbot, he's one of, for me, this Kurt Siodmak's character, he's one of the great tragic figures. The Wolfman is so sad. You know, he's a guy, he has cancer. Only instead of killing him, he's killing everybody. You know, he spends all 4 movies trying to kill himself.
I could hang myself.
No, if you did it wrong, it could be painful. You'd choke to death.
So what? Let him choke.
Do you mind? The man's a friend of mine.
Well, he ain't no friend to me.
Gentlemen.
The gun. I know where you can get a gun.
Don't I need a silver bullet or something?
Oh, be serious, would you?
Madness.
Ultimately, the poor werewolf, he's such a schmuck, you know? I mean, there's a wonderful joke, okay? This, to me, defines the werewolf. There's a husband and wife are having an argument in Los Angeles. And finally she says, I'm not arguing with any of you. Forget it. The argument's over. He says, what do you mean? She goes, it's useless, it's pathetic, it's a waste of time. He goes, oh, yeah? She goes, yeah. And you know why? He says, why? She says, because you're a schmuck. He goes, I'm a schmuck. She says, no, you're not a schmuck. You are the schmuck. If the city of Los Angeles needed an official schmuck, you know, to represent the city in a statewide, if California needed the California state, wait a minute, if the United States needed an American schmuck, if there was a U.S. schmuck to represent it at the International Schmuck Olympics, if the world needed a schmuck, if there was a competition for schmuck of the world, you would get second place. He says, well, why would I get second place? She says, because you're a schmuck. And that's what I feel about the Wolfman. The guy cannot win.
Aren't you gonna say I told you so?
If I were still alive, I probably would.
Are you all right?
Get away!
And it happened on Thriller, too. You know, I mean, because of American Werewolf, when Michael came to John Landis to do Thriller, you know, he liked American Werewolf and he wanted to do, he wanted it to be a short film. He didn't want to call it a music video.
Mm-hmm.
And John contacted me and said, you know, Michael Jackson wants to do this American Werewolf, like, music video, you know, for the song Thriller, which I hadn't heard. And it was like, you know, Michael Jackson, Little Michael Jackson, Jackson 5? Yeah, you know, he's not called that anymore, you know. And so he goes, John says, I'll send you a cassette, listen to it and get some ideas, you know. So and this was when we had little Walkman, you know, and
yeah.
I'd listen to it with one. I had another one that I would like free associate ideas when I was listening, you know. And I thought, well, we came up with the idea of doing these zombie dancers. And I said, well, you know, I'm sure you're going to hire the dancers way in advance so they can learn the dance and stuff. And he goes, no, they only need a couple of days. So they hired him like 3 days before we filmed. And I went, I can't, that doesn't give me time to take life masks and do all the stuff that I would do. And these zombies should be really cool, you know. So I said, how about if the first zombies you see are like me and my crew, because we already have life masks, we can start those today. And we can spend the time on making some cool ones. So I'm in Thriller coming out of a crypt like this, you know, and all my crew basically are the first guys that come out of the ground and break through windows. But the dancers, I said, I'll figure out a way we can do them. And because I had a number of life masks of different people, and small, medium, and large male, small, medium, large female, and we sculpted, we kept pieces, we called them like bandit masks. They were kind of like this, around this area, like a bandit and it didn't have the nose on it because, you know, proportionally you could get away with more. Mm-hmm. So we had different sculptures of small, medium, large male, small, medium, large female, that we would just say, okay, you're a medium male number 2, and we made these big teeth that we could pop in their mouth and put some denture lining material and fit them. So he wanted to be a werewolf, and I just thought, you know, I don't think he should be a werewolf, and I thought something feline would fit him better, you know. Mm-hmm. And I originally did a Black Panther, and then I was afraid of the Black Panther, you know, I didn't want him to be associated with the Black Panthers, you know what I mean?
The political part.
Yeah. So I then became more of fantasy. I gave it longer hair. Thriller was like work. And originally it was going to be my crew were going to be the guys that do the makeups, and they were all non-union. And at the last minute it became a union production, so I had to hire union makeup artists. And there were many to do the dancers, and many of them were people I didn't know, and there weren't a lot of people that were good at this stuff. Yeah, that's, again, we had little bladders in his hand. There's actually an American Werewolf hand in here at one point, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You had a leftover hand?
That's a nail-growing thing was from American Werewolf. It was an amazing experience because, I was, like I said, I was really stressed out the day that we were filming The Dancers, and I had to make up Michael as a zombie. I had a number of makeup artists I didn't even know and hadn't worked before that were doing other zombies, and I'm running through trailers going, no, like this, and then making up Michael, and it's like, oh, man. And we were filming in Vernon, downtown Los Angeles, next to the Farmer John meatpacking place. And they had just slaughtered the animals, and it had this weird smell in the air.
Oh, jeez.
And then the dance started, and all of a sudden, it just like this wave went over me of just the stress went away, and I just was looking at what was happening in front of me. And I was going, oh my God, look at this, and people would pay money to see this. And I get to see this, I saw this roller dance happening when it was, for the first time there, when it was being filmed.
How many times did they shoot it?
Not that many, I don't think, but I think there was 6 cameras on it, the whole street, front was filled with cameras. But that was, another really quick job and very little money.
Thriller was very little money?
For me. It turned, they spent the money, they had a lot of cameras and a lot of stuff when they're filming. But I was working day and night every day of the week to get this stuff done. And John then surprised me with the making of Thriller on the day that Michael was coming out for us to take his life mask and make a cast of his face. He goes, there's going to be a camera crew here, a couple cameras. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I want to do a making of. And I was going, no. It's like, it always looks horrifying to see somebody having a life mask taken.
Right.
And I go, I don't need, and Michael's really shy. We don't need this. I don't want this. He goes, shut up, we're doing it. And it's like, fuck, I was not happy about it. But then so many people have come up to me who are makeup artists now and go, the reason I'm a makeup artist is because I saw the making of Thriller. And it inspired me to do this, and my stock answer is, you thought that if this idiot could do it, I can do it.